Roots readers and fans of Roots magazine for the residents of Harvest Green here in Richmond, Texas. We're here today with Mr. Jeff McQueen, who is a resident-owned business of Integrated Pest Management here in Richmond, Texas. I believe this business has been around for just a little while. Jeff, how long has Integrated Pest Management been around?
We've been in business since 1984. My father and his business partner, Frank, started it back in the early part of '84. So we've been around for real close to 40 years now.
And you guys are located right off the 90, that lime green building where Mason Road kind of intersects with
Correct.
the line. You can't miss them. And your car has a rat.
Yeah, that's right. Intersection of Yes, I'm the guy that drives through the neighborhood with the big rat on the door.
We can't miss you, and we love seeing you, as long as that rat is not in my house.
We always want to try to keep him at bay.
That's right. So, you know, I hear that this is a season for critters maybe like mosquitoes. Do you guys, can you help us out with that a little bit?
Absolutely. We have a couple of different approaches to controlling the mosquitoes around your home. My favorite program is our Into Care mosquito trap stations. What this does is it recruits the female mosquitoes to come into the station to lay her eggs. And when she does, she picks up a larvicide and an adulticide, which happens to be a fungus, not necessarily a pesticide. And then she delivers it to the other breeding sites around the property. So it's a very low toxicity way of controlling the mosquitoes without having to blanket everything with a pesticide on a monthly or daily basis.
Okay, and is that
there are some other ways that we can control them as well, depending on what other.
Okay, depending on how bad the problem is in the area, and what is the frequency if you were to do something like the N2 care system? What is the frequency that needs to be maintained by your service?
We have to do that on a monthly service where we're going to come out and change out the adulticide and the larvicide. And while we're there, we can also treat the harborage areas. Depending on how much vegetation you have around the house, it may require a little more than just the Into Care stations. Another method that we could use would be to install a mosquito misting system. There are some there's several different products that can be used in the misting systems. You could use a synthetic pyrethroid, which is basically a pyrethrin that comes from a chrysanthemum they grow over in Africa. So it's still not really risking any of the potential or the beneficial insects that you have around the house. It really just depends on how the system is set up. So if you're interested in doing something like that, we would need to do a consultation where we come out to the house, take some measurements, look at what types of plants that you may have. We don't want to harm any beneficial pollinators or other beneficial insects that may be around the home. So it's important to custom design those systems.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Could you talk to us a little bit about termites? It's a really scary creature, and I feel like when I hear about them, it makes me anxious for my home. Could you maybe give us a little education for Richmond, Texas as a general area, and what we need to be thinking about as homeowners?
Absolutely. We've got really two types of termites that we deal with here in this area. We deal with eastern subterranean termites, and we deal with Formosan subterranean termites. We've been dealing with eastern subterranean termites forever. It's basically a native termite. But with the Formosan termites, they've just moved into this area over the last 5 or 6 years. The Formosan termites are a much more invasive species than the eastern subterranean termite are, and their colonies are much, much larger than the eastern subs. So they can cause damage a lot faster. You know, a few simple things that can be done around the home to help prevent termites, or at least find them on the first end of it before they start to cause any damage, is you should always be able to see 2 to 4 inches of your foundation away around your home, and you should keep the mulch away from the foundation. So like with a lot of the builders there in the neighborhood, what they've done is they've taken that river rock and they put along the foundation, going out about 6 to 12 inches to prevent that mulch from getting stacked up along the foundation. A lot of people use a landscaper to come out and do their mulch, and they don't really pay attention to how much that builds up along the foundation. But if you let it build up to where your weep holes are at, or even too far up your foundation, you create a perfect little bridge for the termites to make it into the house undetected. If you can always see 2 to 4 inches of your foundation around the home, then one of the obvious signs that you have termites would be a mud tube coming up along the foundation, going into either a weep hole or into a crack along the foundation. And that would be one way for you to tell that you have them. There are a few other places where termites can come into the home that wouldn't be visible from the outside, and that would be around any plumbing penetrations. Mostly it's going to be around bath traps that you have on the first floor. When they pour your foundation, there's really only a couple of breaks in the foundation that is not solid, and it's going to be anywhere you have a bathtub on the first floor. They leave an opening around the drain for the tub where soil is exposed, and they can come up along those areas. When they build the home, they're supposed to do a preventative treatment, and it depends on what type of preventative treatment was done on how long that treatment's going to last. So you can always get with your builder and find out what treatment was done. A lot of the builders use a product called Boracare, and when Boracare is applied, it'll last for close to 30 years. And that's something where they actually treat the lumber, they treat the seal plate and about 3 to 4 feet up on all the exterior walls, and also on any of the interior walls that may be near one of those plumbing penetrations I was talking about. If your builder used that product when they built the house, had a company come out and apply that product when the house was being built, then you really should be in good shape. But it's still important to make sure that you can see your foundation, because there's other things that termites can feed on other than just the 2x4s that are in your wall. Once they get into that wall, they can feed on the paper that's on the back of sheetrock, really any cellulose material. So it could be they come in and don't necessarily feed on the 2x4, but maybe start feeding on your hardwood floors and then leading to your furniture or cabinetry or other areas like that. So it's not a fail-safe plan to just do the Boracare. That's why it's still important to always be able to see your foundation. It's really a good idea to have someone come out and do at least an annual inspection on the home. That way they can look for any conducive conditions or things that you may need to be made aware of to help prevent termites from being an issue.
That's really good to know. I'm going to ask you about another scary little creature. Some might call him cute. But lately there seems to be a little conversation going on mice, field mice, mice walking up your walls, getting in your weep holes. Should you put wire mesh in there? You know, what are your 2 cents on mice?
Mice and rats in general are very destructive to a home and also carry health risks with them when they start to invade your home through their feces and urine stains. So when you think about how a mouse or a rat can get into the house, anything the size of your pinky, a mouse can fit through. Anything the size of your thumb, a rat can fit through. So your weep holes could be an entry point. Not typically an entry point, but if it's an oversized weep hole, they definitely can get into the wall void that way. And once they're in there, they can find their way around to the interior of the house and really start to make a mess. With rats, it's typically going to be where your AC lines go into the side of the house, or anywhere you have one section of the roof going into another section of the roof. That soffit is always cut about a ½ an inch too short. So there's other things that you can use as far as sealing that up. We offer all different types of exclusion services. The copper wool exclusion is important for insects, also some for mice, and then the roof exclusion or rodent exclusion, where we're going to seal those roof joints, and also where those AC lines come at are very important as well. You know, 25% of home fires are caused by rodents every year. That's why it's important to keep them at bay. You know, you should always have something in place around your home to control the rodent population so they don't try to create a way in, whether it be mechanical traps or snap traps or rodent bait stations. I prefer using rodent bait stations to keep the population under control. It's just an easier and more effective way of doing it. The type of rodenticides that I use when I use those stations have no risk of secondary poisoning. It's important to allow the natural predators to continue to help us in this fight. So you don't want to use something that's going to hurt the owls or the hawks that are out there doing their part. That's why it's important to make sure that you're using a product that's not going to have a risk of secondary poisoning. You also don't want to use something that's not going to be effective, because then they're not going to feed on that rodenticide any longer, and you're going to have a harder time of controlling that population. we can come out and we can set those stations up for you. Or we also have a retail store where you can come in and purchase those products. I'm usually in the store. If I'm not here, we'll have someone else in here that can answer your questions, but we can help guide you through whatever may be bugging you at the time, whether it be rodents or mosquitoes or whatever else.
And when in doubt, you can come check it out, right?
Right, absolutely. If you got a bug, you're not sure what it is, you can bring it in with you or a picture of it. I can identify it for you, go over the biology of the insect or whatever the pest may be, and point you in the right direction as far as what products you can use that's going to be, effective on that particular pest and also less harmful to you and your family.
I love it. Well, Jeff, I can't thank you enough for your service to the community, taking care of the Harvest Green families and keeping them bug-free, not to mention all of Richmond that you've been doing for decades. If you guys would like to check out the shop over there, they've got lots of supplies to help you tackle it yourself. Or you can have his team come out and take a look at your home and give you some recommendations. Their website is integrated pest.com, and of course I'll include this in the comments, and their phone number is 281-341-1761. And please let them know that you are a fan of Roots Magazine, or that you know Jeff because he's your neighbor, whatever's going on over there. Jeff, I expect that you don't have any roaches, any mice, any trouble over at your house. No, for most of the termites troubling you. And so we just really love having you in the neighborhood, and thank you for your support of the Neighborhood Magazine. Is there anything you want to leave with our viewers here? Any kind of offers going on, or any kind of COVID concerns that you want to share, or any last thoughts?
Absolutely. So when it comes, one of the things we talked about was mosquito control and using the N2 care systems. What I would like to offer everybody, if they're interested in having that, getting set up on that program, is $20 off of the installation of the N2 care traps that need to be installed. It takes one trap per about 4,000 square feet. So most homes in Harvest Green would require 1 to 2 of those stations. Typically, the installation fee for each station is $59.99. If you mention Roots when you call in, then we'll install the stations, $20 off each one of the stations. And also any Harvest Green homeowner, when they call in, if they mention that they know Jeff and they live in Harvest Green, we'll give them 10% off of their first service.
Oh, that's very generous, Jeff. And thank you guys for all you do in our community. We really love having you available to us. And I know that people in Harvest Green love it when it's green, but they certainly don't want the rodents that come along with all of the green. I love our garden snakes. I want them to eat all the mice.
Absolutely, they're beneficial. The name of our business, Integrated Pest Management, if you look up the definition of it, it's to find the least toxic route to solving your problem. And I know that's important in Harvest Green. So I appreciate your time today, Liz.
Thank you, Jeff. So I look forward to seeing you very soon when you take care of my mosquito pots or my N2 care system, now that I know the right name for them.
There you go.